Good evening, Bahrain. I'm Bernadette from Gulf Brands International, and you're watching Wine Online Wednesday. We are now on episode 15, and it's exploring Piccini again. So a few weeks ago, we did one session on 3 of the wines from Piccini, and now we're going to look at 3 more. And these are quite a nice little group that sit well together. So we're going to start with an Orvieto, which sits to the north of Rome in the Umbria area. And then we're going to do 2 Chiantis, which are from the heart of Tuscany. So Piccini is especially known for its Chiantis, but I thought it would be nice to have a white to start, and also the white and the Collezione Oro, they form a pair. So there's a nice little connection going on in them as well. So Piccini is quite a prominent winemaker in Italy. He's not a Johnny-come-lately. Founded in 1882 by Angiolo Piccini, who started off with about 7 hectares of vines, quite a small scale. Nowadays, we are on the 4th generation of Piccinis, and that is Mario Piccini, who's now running the show there. And the principle behind Piccini, you can go back to when Angiolo first started his business. He said, it's not how much wine we make, but how much passion we put into our work, which I think is typical of an Italian winemaker who's got wine in his blood. So those 17 hectares have grown considerably since then. He has 5 different estates now in Tuscany, as well as 2 very interesting properties down in the south of Italy, one in Campania, and one in Sicily on the slopes of Mount Etna, producing some very interesting wine on volcanic soils. The company itself is highly rated internationally, exporting now to over 85 countries. In the drinks business, which is a trade journal from last year, it was rated in the top 10 most influential wine families. Very interesting stuff. And Forbes has named it in its top 100 companies to watch in the food and drink industry. So I think they're doing pretty well there. So good on them. So very pleased to have these wines here tonight. Let's have a little look at them. So we'll start with the white, with Orvieto. So this is an Orvieto Classico from Umbria, which is about 80 miles north of Rome. The city of Orvieto is famous in the Middle Ages for being a papal city, and it was extremely wealthy. So the wealthy landowners in the area used to grow their own vines, drink their wine, and Orvieto, named after the city, was a wine that they liked to consume. The grape behind an Orvieto is Grechetto, is the main grape in there. That grape was probably brought in by the Etruscans, and some say it had its origin in Greece, thus the Grechetto from Greece. In Orvieto itself, just to show the popularity of the wine, there is a stunning cathedral, the Duomo, and in 1500, a fantastic painter, Luca Signorelli, was doing a fresco of the Last Judgment, and documents have been found to show that he was paid 1,000 litres of Orvieto for his work. So he must have been one thirsty painter. That's cute. So getting back to our Orvieto here, we've got a blend of grapes in here. If you're going to have the Orvieto wine, you cannot have more than 45% of Grechetto. But a sneaky trick has been played here, because they've used 2 types of Grechetto grapes. So let's see the influence it has on the wine. Okay, so first we'll have a little look. It's a lovely pale yellow. It's got a bit more colour than other Italian whites like Soave, even a Pinot Grigio. So it's a bit richer in colour. This is vintage 18, drinking perfectly right now. Would be good for about another 2 years or so. Lovely clear edges, lovely straw yellow colour coming through. And let's see where we go on the nose. Ooh, citrusy. Some apples, but not sharp green apples. We're talking more like a russet apple, a yellow apple, an autumn apple. Hints of that. Maybe a little peachiness in there. Okay, let's get into a taste. Same flavors coming through. Apple, citrus, and there's a hint of nuttiness in the finish, like a little almondy flavor, which just balances it from not being too fruity. Now the wine is made entirely in stainless steel, so there's no oak influence or anything. So to stop it from being too tutti frutti, the Grechetto is giving it a little hint of almond. This is rather a magic wine, because involved in making this wine is Riccardo Cottarella, who is known as an amazing winemaker in Italy, and he's often brought in to consult in some wineries on his input into getting fabulous wine out of crazy grapes. So what he's done here with the Grechetto is he's put two clones together. He's used 40% of Grechetto di Todi, 15% of Grechetto di Orvieto. Now you can't use more than 45% of Grechetto, but he's used two clones. So he was able to get over the 45% threshold. So that's where you're getting citrus fruit and this lovely balance of almonds. And the rest of it, Porcanico and a bit of Chardonnay. So with the Chardonnay as well, you're getting a broader flavour. There is the little fatty flavour from the Chardonnay coming through. I think this makes it a very food-friendly wine. And there's a nice, even though it's fruity, there's a little hint of minerals in the finish. I think this is rather refined. Also something to look out for, it's Classico. Classico means it's from the Orvieto area, but the Classico is the ancient inner circle of where the wine was first produced. So the quality coming out of there is much better, so it's a lot more select. I think this is a lovely, well-balanced Italian expression. And Cottarella's influence in playing with the Grechetto means it's not quite what you would expect. The ordinary Orvieto non-Classico can be a little thin, but with his trick playing with the Grechetto clones and a bit of Chardonnay, it's really giving it a little bit more depth. Wow, very nice way to start. Okay, from here, let's go to Tuscany. So we're going to move into the heart of Tuscany, into Chianti. That famous place everybody knows, everyone must have had a Chianti at some stage in their life. Where does it come from? It comes from the heart of Tuscany, a very ancient area for making wine. And part of the condition to make Chianti is it must be predominantly Sangiovese. After that, you can have a few of the other local varieties brought in. In this case, our Piccini orange has got 90% of Sangiovese. It's got about 5% of Caniolo and another 5% of Cigliolo. Cigliolo, apart from being difficult to say after a glass of wine, refers to that the grapes are like little cherry tomatoes. That's little cherries. This is how the varietal got its name. So let's just get into it first and see how it is. So colour-wise, we've got nice plummy red and some little pinkish edges, yeah. And on the nose, oh, red fruits. This is why Chianti is the most popular imported red in the United States. Obviously, it's the influence of a lot of Italian immigrants, Italian restaurants, Italian culture. That is deliciousness in a glass. It's fruity. Lots of cherries, lots of red fruits, but they're not overpowering. A nice gentle balance. So this particular Chianti, the Orange Label, as it's now called, was launched by Piccini in about the year 2000. It was the very first time that such a dramatic orange label was launched. Up until then, the labels were very, very traditional, very classical, and this shook up the industry completely. It now has reached the status of probably the single most exported Chianti from Italy, which is a massive success story for them. Okay, and that again, oh, that would just love food, especially Italian food. Let's have some pizza, grills, roast meat, cheese time as well. That is delicious food. So actually what I'm going to do, because now we're going to try another Chianti as well, just going to pop this into a bigger glass, because if we're going to compare them properly, good to have like with like. So the bigger your glass, especially for red wine, the more it will open up and you're able to get the flavors to develop more. The aromas will get to the right place. See, that's coming out more now. Again, cherries and black fruit. Right, okay. Let's move on to the gold. So, this is Chianti Riserva Collezione Oro. Collezione Oro, the gold collection. Its partner in crime from the Collezione Oro is the Orvieto. So as you can see, you can have a nice pair of wines there. The difference, what makes this so special, apart from looking stunning, Riserva is the very important word here. Riserva obviously gives the impression of something of better quality. But let's look at what's inside the bottle first. Sangiovese. Lots of Sangiovese. We have 90% of Sangiovese in there. And there's a bit of Cabernet to give it some structure. Let's see. Beautiful deep purpley red. The edges here are looking a little bit more orangey than pinky, which is a sign that it's a bit older. So this is actually 2015 vintage. Lovely, lovely colour, completely opaque. Let's go on the nose. Oh, it's got the same origin of fruit, of the forest fruits, red fruits, some cherries, but they're much more concentrated here. And yet there's something slightly vegetal in the background. Let's see what it's like on the palate. Wow, it's coming through. Same red fruits, cherries, luscious cherries, but there's a nice hint of tannin starting to move back here. The tannin here is coming from some oak. So our Orange Label Chianti does not have any oak. It's all fermented in stainless steel. Here we've definitely got some oak going on. So the wine, when it's being vinified, we've got almost all of it Sangiovese and then Cabernet. The wines are vinified separately, matured separately, and then macerated separately, and then for maturing, they're blended at that stage. That's when the winemaker gets in there and says, I need a bit of this, I need a bit of that, and it comes up with his 90% Sangiovese, 10% Cabernet blend. So the Cabernet is helping to give some of that structure at the back, the little hint of tannin. Cabernet just loves oak. So in this, 30% of the wine goes into a barrique. Now a barrique is a relatively small oak barrel. It's the kind that if you ever see pictures of cellars underground in old wineries and everything, you're looking at a barrel about this big and about this long. So there's a lot of wood that the liquid is being exposed to. So 30% of the wine goes into these barriques, as they're called, the smaller oak barrel, and the rest of it, 70%, goes into a much larger oak barrel where there's less oak exposure. That gives just the right hint of a texture coming through from the barrique, while the 70% is giving a very gentle little dimension of oak. Then it spends about 9, 10, 11 months slumbering in these oak barrels. Then it's taken out and it's matured longer in the bottle. So when you see the Riserva on the label, that means it's been aged at least 2 years between barrel and bottle, because they don't want to release this wine too soon to the market, because you won't have the right experience when you're drinking it. So just going to do a little quick comparison here. Let's not get these mixed up. Orange Label Collezione Oro. Jammy fruit coming through. More sophisticated fruit. It's the same kind of fruit qualities. Yeah, and let's go back quickly to the palate. Juicy fruit. More depth, more perspective, rounded fruit with a little bit of oak hitting in the back. You can still drink this for another few years and it will just develop more and more. Absolutely gorgeous. This is a fantastic expression of Tuscan wine. It reminds me of the movie Gladiator, with all the cypress trees, the beautiful landscapes and everything coming through. Wow, that is gorgeous. And speaking of movies, I think if we go back to the white, this reminds me of Interstellar, Chris Nolan's movie, where what you see is not quite what you expect to get and understand. And this, I think, is what Cottarella has done with his playing with the Grechetto. It delivers a wine which it surpasses your expectations for an Orvieto, and it's a lovely three-dimensional, beautiful Orvieto Classico. And then going to our Orange Label. This is great fun. This is easygoing Chianti. And I think probably the most famous movie with Chianti has got to be Silence of the Lambs, where Hannibal Lecter tells Clarice in the jail, "I had met a census taker once. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti." Chilling quote from him. But there's an inside story on that. He was a psychopath. He was also a psychiatrist. He should have known, with his condition, he would have been on these drugs called MAOIs. When you're taking MAOI, there are 3 things you cannot eat: liver, fava beans, and red wine. So I think he was having the last laugh. So that's it tonight. We've looked at Piccini. We've taken a beautiful Orvieto from the Gold Collection. We've got a great easygoing Chianti, which is definitely a crowd pleaser, very food friendly. And then we've got a more luscious, elegant, refined Chianti Riserva, again from the Gold Collection. So there you go, the trio from Piccini.